system on fire. Military science, science fiction contest. Books or stories every Wednesday. Military science fiction contest. Discussion, interviews, reviews, and rants. Military science fiction contest.
Right. Well, one question I wanted to ask, Rick, like, would you like to lean into talking about humor and like how you approach it, and maybe we could all, like how hard it is to do well?
I don't know. I mean, there's humor in the
So
book, but it's not really a big
I
part
think
of it.
really, I think it's really funny so far.
I thought it was you weren't like going for it being parts of it being laugh out loud funny.
Well, no, I mean, there's humor in it, but I mean, the whole overall
It's not a
theme of the
humorous
book is
sci-fi,
serious.
yeah.
No. Well, I think, and this we should talk about that because I think humor sci-fi definitely like generally sucks. But there were definitely all places I've been laughing as this is going along. I'm having a lot of fun listening.
Well, I mean, Jax is a humorous character.
I find Lyra really funny.
Really?
I don't know if she's supposed to be. Yeah.
I mean, she's fun. She's funny in that she's a fish out of water.
Yeah.
But I mean, I mean, when I say Jax is funny, Jax is trying to be funny, whereas Lyra is trying to fit in and doing it badly.
Lyra has the same appeal, I feel like Spock does, where she's like,
right.
The things that she says are funny. Even I thought you actually intended them to be funny, but in a way that a person who doesn't realize they're being funny is being funny.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. She's not. Jax is trying to be funny.
But you intended her to be funny, though.
Yeah, I intended her.
Okay.
I intended some of her reactions to things to be humorous because of the incongruity of her life mixed with where she's living now.
I was worried there for a second. I was just like, crap, he's that good? He's retired now.
You're doing it inadvertently. No, I mean we're talking about it, so we should just continue.
Yeah,
today we're talking about Rick's. I keep forgetting that we're just recording. Everybody should know that we just start recording immediately from now. So like there could be great stuff that Jeff would have cut beforehand. It's not getting cut now. So today we're talking about Rick's latest book, Ransom's Renegades. Unlawful Orders.
In the new Ransom's Renegade series.
Yeah, I don't want to call it a departure because I think it's got all the things that you really love in a Rick Partlow book. But like we were just saying, I think it's really funny. And so I'm only on chapter 5, so I've still got a ways to go. But it's already hooked me. And I will finish the book today, most likely. So, Rick, why don't you give us, introduce us to Ransom's Renegades, and let's talk, I like the series idea, and then let's get into the book individually.
Actually, the book in the series came from an idea I had a long time ago, like 30 years ago, 40 maybe. It was when I was watching Star Trek, the original series. And Captain Kirk says something about how there's a likelihood that we won't live through this, but if it's any comfort to you, then know that you're giving your lives for a higher cause or something like that. Something to those. And all I could imagine was somebody from the lower decks saying, "Hey, Captain, us guys down here want you to know that it's really no comfort at all." And I said, I need to write a fleet type story like that. Just, not to be just humorous, but to make it a little more cynical, and I wanted to write. Everybody knows how people talk about the Federation from Star Trek is really kind of dystopian. And I'm like, I want to write that. I want to write a universe where it's dystopian and there are people kind of subverting it from the inside. So I had to think of what kind of a character do I want as my captain, because you've got your kind of noble, righteous guys like Jean-Luc Picard, and you've got the swaggering ass kickers like Jim Kirk. But I said, I want somebody who's kind of a con man. I mean, he's really good at fighting his ship, but he's also good at playing the system. So I'm like, so what if
Scoundrel.
Yeah, what if Han Solo, there's a series of books by Brian Daley about the
Mhm.
background of Han Solo and Chewbacca before Star Wars.
Oh yeah, I read
And
those.
yeah, and
Mhm.
he mentions that Han Solo was training to be a fighter pilot for, I don't know, the Empire or wherever,
He was an Imperial officer.
some government, and
Corellian, I think.
yeah, he wound up getting cashiered out, for some reason. They never really made it clear. And I'm like, well, what if he hadn't? What if Han Solo had become a captain of a starship? So that's Cole Ransom. What if Han Solo had actually become a starship captain? And that's how I came up with the book.
I think, I mean, so far, I'm not like, my initial impression though is that he's dealing with a situation that, like you just talked about, is, and this is my, I mean, that's my feeling of at least my experience in the Army, is it's a bureaucracy that you got to learn to navigate, because there are definitely people who are manipulating the bureaucracy to their goals, their aims. And so that's my impression of it, at least initially. So I I'm excited to see him do more hijinks.
Well,
I was also thinking, like, does Hogan's Heroes come into play at all?
Oh, I
Because
didn't even
that,
think about Hogan's Heroes.
yeah, I was really
well, I mean,
thinking
I
of Hogan.
watched that as a kid. My dad was in a POW camp in World War II, so
Oh,
he really liked Hogan's Heroes. He thought it was hilarious, and
yeah.
so I mean, I didn't consciously set out to put Hogan's Heroes in there, but I can see where it would have had an influence on me because I used to watch it all the time when I was a
Mhm.
kid.
I always liked those. I loved Hogan's Heroes and was it Kelly's Heroes? Or am I conflating the one where they steal the gold?
Kelly's Heroes,
That's
yeah.
Kelly's
Yeah.
Heroes. Yeah.
It's Barbara, Sergeant. I loved those movies and those TV
Oh
shows,
yeah.
especially because a lot of
Well,
them were written.
Jax, hey Jeff, Jax from Unlawful Orders owes a lot to Don Rickles' character from Kelly's Heroes.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's crazy. I didn't think about that. I especially liked a lot of those movies because a lot of them were written, directed, and starred people who were actually in World War II.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
and so it was like, we get these really gritty, quote unquote realistic takes on World War II movies now. Um, and some of them are accurate and some of them aren't. I won't question the veracity of the history of it not being there. But I mean, like, I'm more willing to trust somebody who was actually there than somebody who wasn't there and has never read a book about it. You
Well,
know,
I also think the people that were there were probably like, I kind of don't want to go through that garbage again. Let's do something
Yeah, I
that's a
was going to
little
say
more
that
entertaining.
they probably liked my dad probably liked Hogan's Heroes because he was in a POW camp and it
yeah,
sucked and he wanted a lighter hearted take on it.
yeah, exactly. So when you were writing it, was it like an easier book to write? Some books are easy to write and some books are hard to write. How did you feel about writing it?
It wasn't hard. It was. I mean, it wasn't like difficult. I didn't struggle through it. It's not. Anytime I write a third person book with multiple POVs, it's by definition harder than writing a first person book. So it was harder in that sense that I had multiple POVs to play with, um, and you got to decide who you're going to make a POV character. But as far as like the actual plot and the action, that wasn't difficult. I mean, although I have to say that in any fleet book or any military science fiction, you have to find constant new ways to make a space battle sound interesting. So,
Wasn't Accidental Astronaut in third person?
yes, it was.
Mhm.
I know that I wrote like 9 Grimm's War books in third person with multiple POVs and stuff, and then I thought, hey, I'll take a break and this will be super easy to write this new series in first person, and it's so not true.
That
I
has so
want to
much
go
more
back to
stuff
third
happening in a
person.
first person book. Yeah.
For me, it's easy because I mean, the only difficult part about first person books is making them long enough.
That's what I
Because
mean.
in third person, you can do multiple POVs, multiple things happening
Multiple conflicting storylines and
simultaneously.
yeah.
First person, you have to I mean, there can't really be any side quests, with different people. You can't have like somebody off doing something else.
Yeah.
Everything has to happen to that main character, and that's the challenge of first person. But I kind of prefer it because it allows me to get into the head of and help the reader get into the head of the main character easier. But
Mhm.
there's advantages and disadvantages to each of them.
Yeah, for sure. And especially when you're on a starship, though, it's nice to have the POVs, of, like you said, the lower decks, the different people, you know, engineers and cooks and whatnot that, allow you to really broaden out and flesh out the ship. So talk to us about the ship.
Okay, well, that that was the hard part about this because every other book that I've written, even ones that had fleet stuff in them, the ship wasn't a main character. Because I mean, for instance, Duty on Her Planet had a lot of fleet stuff in it, but the main character was an intelligence officer. So he and his people would go from ship to ship, and the ships weren't really crucial to the plot. Uh, and in like Genesis in the Holy War series, there was a lot of fleet stuff, but the guy's ship got destroyed, and he got another ship. It wasn't the ship wasn't an integral part of the plotting, but the Mistral is a part.
Mhm.
She's a character. You know, the
Hero
Mistral
ship.
is everybody loves that ship, and as much as they are loyal to Captain Ransom, and they're loyal to the ship. Like the chief engineer, Rourke, he doesn't even really like Captain Ransom or anybody else, honestly, but he loves the ship. That's
Mhm.
so you have to make
Well, I
the
think
ship worth loving.
you also set it up from the beginning that Ransom cares about the ship, like the whole opening. And I want to talk about this a bit later because I really like the way you do first chapters, and we'd be great to get into that a little bit. But like we have a whole action sequence of the captain doing a thing to protect the ship, and then we get into the characters that they don't even like they like the captain, like you were saying, but it's the ship that's important. So all these things are clearly demonstrating what's important to the characters. And I thought that was working really well.
I know where it comes from too, because I watched the same Star Trek episodes you watched, and there was
Mhm.
that one scene where it's like, and nothing is more important than my ship. And I always love that too.
Mhm.
Well, I always think of the one with Scotty where he gets into the fight with the Klingons, not because they called Captain Kirk all those names and drag him through the mud, but because they insulted the Enterprise.
They
Right.
called it. They said it should be hauled away as garbage.
But yeah, I mean, the hardest part about the ship was, I mean, it wasn't the drive because I've done drives. The metric drive is just a different version of the Alcubierre space time inflation drive. But I want the weapon systems were really challenging because when you're using a drive that warps space around your ship, if you have any want to have any verisimilitude in the fighting, you have to figure out, well, you can't use a Gauss cannon against something that warps space around itself. You can't use a laser because it'll just shrug that off. Just warp the space and take the laser with it. The photons.
It's a lot
So
like David Weber's gravity bands in
I
that
had to figure
respect.
out a way to actually use the drive system as a weapon. So that's why I got
Mm.
the flux cannons and the flux torpedoes. They use the drive system to attack other drive fields.
As part of that, I have a little bit of inside knowledge because I'm married to the cover designer. Rebecca really wanted to find you a ship that had never been on the cover of a book before. And she went all out. I mean, we actually spent a couple of weeks looking through 3D models and trying to find something that looked unique and cool that kind of fit your requirements for what you wanted the ship to look like. And would look good on a cover in different angles because a lot of what people don't think realize is that ships can look really good in one angle, but then you turn them and they look terrible in another angle.
Yeah.
And So it's cool that I'm really glad that you went with a hero ship because she gave you a ship that really just is so unique and cool looking that it stands out in a good way.
And getting a name for a ship like that's important too. If it's a ship's going to be a main character, it has to have a name that sounds right. And I didn't want anything um, cliched and overused, like Dauntless or something like that. So I thought she's a ship that's mostly important because of her speed. She wins battles because she's
Mhm.
faster and more maneuverable. So I was thinking about the wind, and so I looked up a bunch of synonyms for wind and came up with Mistral. And I was like, oh yeah, I like that one.
A good name. And the way you describe the ship, it's clear that everybody involved with it loves the ship, and it's clear that you like the ship because the descriptions and the way you set it up, it really does present itself as a character and not just, oh, look, it's a gray metal hull with like doors that open.
Well, one thing I wanted to, and this is maybe not as obvious in the first book, but when you get in the second and third, one thing I wanted to make clear is like Cole has to get off the ship at some point. I mean, you can't have the whole book with the captain sitting on the ship, even though that's realistic. Uh, but I
It's
wanted, to,
it's like finding different ways to explain space battles. You have to
yeah,
find different ways to explain the
Right.
captain getting off the ship.
but I wanted to make it clear that whenever he is off the ship, he doesn't feel comfortable.
Mhm.
When he's forced to be like running through the streets shooting at the bad guys, he's like, I don't belong here. This is not what I'm trained for, and I want to get back on the ship and do what I'm good at. So,
Something I've been
I,
thinking
That's
about.
important too, because you can't have a
Yeah.
captain who's just like, I'm good at everything. I love
yeah.
Kirk, but he's good at everything.
Well, I mean, I make a point in the later books, especially well, book two and book three. I'm about 2/3 done with book three right now. Um, I make a point that he is not that good at uh, close quarters battle. At shooting big guns at hand to hand combat. I mean, he's better at it than the average person on the street. But when it comes to like his Marines on the ship, he's like woefully inadequate, and he's constantly training with Marcus Ionescu, the Marine captain of the company there. Well, it's actually more of a reinforced platoon that's on the Mistral, but he's technically a company commander. But that's just so their
On
platoon
paper,
can have more troops added to them in time of war.
Mhm. Let me
Because
ask you guys something about this is kind of I guess something I've been thinking a difference between maybe the Army and the Navy. And I never had any desire to join the Navy because I don't like the idea of being subordinate to some piece of tech that could just fail and kill me in an instant. Which, maybe is a misnomer of like thinking about stuff I did. You can still die in an
never rode in
instant.
a
But
helicopter there, James.
I know, yeah, many times. And that's the thing. Like you still
James,
think
didn't
like,
you have a
okay,
truck that had like a 1-ton missile on the back of it?
yeah, but I can jump out of the truck, man. Like I can save myself.
Could jump
It
off
just
a
feels
ship.
different. I don't know. Then you're in the ocean, and what are you going to do? But um, that's something I've been thinking about lately with like being. It just I've been studying submarines a lot because I was thinking about a story around a submarine, and the idea that you could be in a submarine and just die instantly and not even know it is very odd to me. And that how that plays into the characters and maybe Cole as well. That's just a weird inversion that he wouldn't feel as safe off the ship. But if you spent your whole life on ships, which these people would potentially, I guess it's just a different way of thinking. But
Well, I think that there's probably a bit of a qualitative difference between a spaceship and a submarine in that if you're in a submarine and something happens to the ship and the hull is cracked, you're dead. If you're in
mm-hmm,
a spaceship, you can always put on a space suit and survive
hopefully,
for
yeah.
a while, or you can get in a shuttle or an escape pod and survive. Where you're in a submarine, none of that's really available if you're
Well,
deep.
Well, they have
what
rescue
had me thinking
sub.
about it, I mean, Rourke makes a speech in the beginning when I think Lyra is telling him, "Why aren't you wearing the radiation suits?" And he says, "Well, if anything happens with his drive, we're dead anyway." So why
Yeah.
would we do that? Which is what got me on that. Yeah, I don't know if rescue subs. This is a whole other tangent, but um, it got me thinking. I mean, also about just the mindset on um, Grimm's War, and like just differences between the Navy or working around these kind of pieces of tech and the Army, where I like the dirt. I like to be close to the dirt. I like to feel like I could get away from something if I need to.
Okay, so I watched this awesome YouTube channel called Growling Sidewinder. I highly recommend him. He flies he plays a simulator called DCS, which is a really accurate fighter simulator, and he is constantly flying an A-10 Warthog. And one of his favorite things to do is from 4 miles up, launch a GBU 2,000-pound bomb at a group of soldiers having a powwow in the morning before they go out to do their meeting. And he usually uses the
Sure.
laser to put it at the feet of whoever the CO is. You're never safe.
Yeah, just watch
But I
those
like to think
watch
I'm
those
safe. I
drone
have to delude
videos from
myself.
Ukraine. Watch those
Yeah.
I
drone
know.
videos from Ukraine to
I didn't be
see
able to
that.
delude myself, and that maybe that's just a complete difference in modern warfare. That just any moment.
It's a little scary, the
Yeah.
idea that somebody miles away could be launching something at any given moment that is going to kill you, and you're not even going to know that you died. You're just going to be dead.
Another difference would be that on a ship using the metric drive, you kind of
As
have
opposed to the Imperial Drive.
yes,
Sorry.
you kind of have
I had to channel my inner Partlow there.
you kind of have like a shield around you all the time.
Mhm.
And the ability to run away really fast. So that's probably also a comfort. But
Well, James, like I'm sure you had procedures for if you came under fire. When I
Mhm.
was in the Army, like half of everything was safety protocols, right? Like, what do you do this if the truck's on fire? You do that if your radio breaks or whatever. And then all the Navy people I've talked to, like, there's whole books that they have in the ship about follow this
well,
procedure if this happens, and follow this procedure if that happens.
well, back in the '80s, Jeff, we had a procedure for if the roof was on fire. We decided we didn't need any water. We just let it burn.
Was that 80s? I think that. Yeah, I guess that was 80s.
It was the 80s, James, yes.
What I was going to say was that the idea that you could die at any moment is really great motivation to just get your book done and hurry up and get that written, because there is no tomorrow and you could disappear right now.
Well, thank you for
There is
making
no
me feel even
tomorrow,
older
there is
than
no
I am.
yesterday, there is only today.
There is only now.
Um, yeah, I wanted to, but yeah, basically, I wanted to write what if the Federation was real, and people
Mhm.
actually reacted to it the way real people would. And what if there was no magic? Uh, what do they call that? The thing where they can
Food
create
replicator?
replicator, no magic replicator technology. Um, so I had to think of why it existed, and how it would come about. And that brought up the big debate for me was aliens or no aliens.
Yeah, where
Mhm.
did you go with that? How did you decide that?
I decided that I did not want to introduce aliens yet. I mean, maybe if this series is successful, and people out there, if you want it to be successful and you want more books in it, you know what to do. Um,
You can't just buy it.
you have to
I know you
share
got
it.
to tell
Buy
people,
it and tell people
about
about
it.
it.
Yes,
Yep.
tell people. Um, but if it goes for like 6 or 9 or 12 books, then I might introduce aliens because you can only fight a certain enemy for so many story arcs. Um,
About nine. About
yeah.
9 books.
So the enemies in the first arc, well, you have the cogs. Um, Let me explain how this.
That was my next question was
I
let's
mean,
talk
they
about
feel
the
pretty
enemies.
alien
Yeah.
in the beginning, at least.
Well, what happened was, and this is explained in the book, and explained more in the second book even. Um, like 100 years or so in the future, somebody develops an Alcubierre style drive. They call it the metric, and initially, we don't have the power to travel faster than light using it. So a few, I mean, and we use it to basically conquer the solar system, but a few kind of misfit groups want to go to other stars, and they want to do it for like ideological reasons or philosophical reasons. They want to get out of they want to get away from everybody else. They're kind of separatists, and a lot of those ships never make it. A lot of the times they die when they reach the colony, because what we can see of these distant worlds, they're habitable. We can see that because of this oxygen spectrum. There's life on them, but we can't tell if they're really hospitable. Mm-hmm. So a lot of these places, you get there, and yes, there's free oxygen in the atmosphere, and nitrogen is breathable, but the plant life is poisonous to the touch, or there's huge storms that wipe the surface clean every time it goes by. Things like that that just make the planet really hard to live on. So a lot of the places don't make it, and the ones that do become very, very different from the humans they left behind on Earth. And like one of them is Lyra's people, the residents. They landed on a place that was difficult to live on, not like poisonous plants, but it was hard to make a living there. The weather was harsh. The climate, the the growing season was short. Everybody had to work together and cooperate. So they came up with a philosophy. And they were already kind of wacky philosophically. So they came up with the way of resonance. It's a way of people to work together. It's not quite a religion, but it's more than a philosophy. It's kind of a way of life. And they have their own, like scripture called the Way of Resonance. And she quotes from it, a lot, because she's not used to dealing with people outside of her, little group. So she kind of uses that as a shield. And then you had the tactical officer, Tamsin Cade. She's from a world that turned out to have heavier gravity, which nobody knew looking at it because they didn't know what the core was made out of. But it's like almost 2 gravities. So a lot of her people died, and the ones who didn't developed into really thick, short troll-like people.
Don't call us trolls.
Yeah, they're called the Antasians. So those were people who had it rough, but the cognoscenti had it the roughest. Their world was the roughest of them all, and the only way they could survive was to turn themselves into cyborgs. And eventually, their society was taken over by transhumanists who wanted to become something more than human. So they stopped biological reproduction. Everybody who is born is grown in a tank. And you're given cyborg parts when you get
We are the Borg.
Yeah. And but they're not a group mind. They're not a hive mind like the Borg. But they're very much surrendering the importance of the individual to the group. So they're kind of like cyborg communists. And what happened when we do what happened is, once those people were out there for like 100 years, we discovered a way to travel faster than light using the metric. So we go to those colonies and thinking that we're like rescuing them. And as it turns out, they don't need to be rescued. And I mean, we make the United Systems makes a peaceful government with the resonance and with the Antasians, and a few other colonies are out there. And that's how you get the United Systems. But when they go to the Cog homeworld, they're greeted with hostility and mistrust, and it breaks out into a fight, and that leads to a war that lasts like a decade, and it's only been over for about 20 years at the start of this book.
I mean, that feels very likely to me. I see that as like a very likely future for us. Okay, well, so they kind of are alien then, except they share our DNA, right? And
yeah, well, that's going to become important in book 2.
Mhm.
How, I mean, whether they are truly alien, and how different they can actually become in 100 years, and whether that's something that can be reversed. Sorry, I hurt my back a couple days ago, and it's still giving me twitches now and again.
Mm.
So are the cogs the only aliens? Are the only enemies?
Um, well, that's part of the mystery of the first book, is whether there's an internal enemy as well. Which I don't want to spoil anything, but yes, there is. uh, there is a when you've had a almost apocalyptic war, and you're dealing
Mhm.
with an enemy that is as close to non-human as you can get and still be genetically human. Some people are going to believe that there's nothing that you can do that's immoral in pursuit of winning that war. But there's also a bunch of laws that were passed in reaction to us encountering the cogs, uh, that forbid people from becoming cyborgs, in that sense, that forbid any replacement of biological material with artificial material unless it's for medical reasons.
That's
So,
interesting.
so there's a lot of prejudice against becoming anything like the cogs, and there's also a lot of laws written to outlaw like autonomous weapon systems, uh, sapient AI, things like that, because they feel like that would bring us too close to the cogs. And some people might believe that that is limiting our ability to fight them.
Mm.
Jeff is trimming his
Sorry.
bonsai tree.
No, the I'm half listening to my kids mess up their chores. Um, so okay, so it kind of sounds like that's also a neat way of like not having to deal with a whole lot of AI stuff.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is a challenge right now. I mean, can you talk about why you decided to not do that?
Because I feel like AI becomes an easy button,
Hmm.
and I don't want the characters to have an easy button, So they have they have AI, but they don't have thinking AI. They don't have like the AI. They don't have what everybody believes that Chat GPT is, but it's not.
Yeah.
Right,
They don't
right.
have AI that thinks for you. They just have AI that organizes things.
Hmm.
They have automated systems that can like land your ship, but they don't they don't have a computer that will go into combat for you and fight the enemy and make choices about who lives and
It will,
dies.
it will
They
make
don't have
bad
Lexi
decisions.
Doig commanding their ship.
They don't have what?
Lexi Doig,
Oh, okay.
the girl from Andromeda Ascendant. She was the AI that commanded the Andromeda
Hmm.
TV show.
I
Kevin
didn't watch. I
Sorbo.
didn't watch Andromeda.
Okay. Yeah.
But
I
It was a TV
watched
show.
some of Andromeda.
And there's a
Yeah.
really, really attractive woman, Lexi Doig. She was the AI, ship's AI. Later was on Stargate.
who did
Anyways,
she play? Who did she play?
I'm sure that
she was the
Hercules was the
replacement
captain.
doctor on Stargate.
Oh, okay.
She's married to Michael Shanks, who played Dr. Daniel Jackson. But
It
yeah, no,
always
it's
amazes
like
me
it's
that
like it's
you
really
have room
easy
for
to
this
be
stuff in your
like,
brain.
oh, you have an AI, it does everything. You know,
What were you
humans need
saying,
not
James?
apply.
I said I'm always amazed that Jeff has room for this stuff in his brain because I don't.
I once told somebody I have a photographic memory for movies and TV shows.
Hmm.
It's not true, but I do remember a lot.
I
But I
seem
mean,
to remember.
I basically did the same thing because I didn't want to have to deal with like super advanced computers that could just do everything. Because then everybody's going to be saying, well, why don't you just have the computer do it? And the honest answer is because that's not fun to write,
Yeah,
Right.
or
nor is
read.
it
It's not
fun
fun
to
to read about.
read. You know, it's
But
much
yeah,
more
I
fun to
decided I
read
didn't
stuff.
want to deal with the aliens yet for the same reason. I just don't want. I don't want I want the focus to be on the people
Mhm.
and not the aliens, not the AI. I wanted to focus on the main characters. Um, at some point, once the main characters are established, then maybe you could bring in that stuff and deal with it. But it's not something I want to start in the first book. So
Well, and the nice thing too is that if you don't establish it in the first book, then you don't ever have to bring it in if you decide you don't want to.
it's
But
true.
once you establish something, you have to have it in there.
And dealing with the alien race is going to be that's going to be like something where you take a whole book to introduce them and introduce.
It becomes the point
Yeah,
of the story.
it becomes the point of the story, and I didn't want to do that with the first book. I want the first three books to be exploring the characters and their place in this universe, their place in the ICA. Um, it's the Interstellar Command Authority. That's the ICA is like the catch-all for the military, Marines, fleet,
Mhm.
everything, uh, and also the intelligence services. There's more than one. The fleet has its own intelligence service, which is like naval intelligence in our world, in the U.S. But there's also a CIA equivalent they call the AID, the Authority Intelligence Directive.
I like that. You have a lot of directives, agencies
Mhm.
called directives.
Not a lot, some, but yeah, and nobody in the fleet trusts the AID.
As you shouldn't. CYD or CID. So I want to talk about the opening chapter because I think from an author perspective, there's a lot of stuff there that was really, I mean, I know it was intentional because you're good at this and you've done it across, you know, all your books that I've read so far. But I think there's also an extra level here of you have done it and now you have to find different ways to do it. And so one of the things that you always are really good at setting up is a character in a situation, but within the first, I'd say, 1 to 2 chapters, you have a pretty good idea of who this character is, and they demonstrate it through decisions that they make. And so in this one, we get to, just the very even opening scene. We're watching Ransom and his crew show up. The guards at the Port Authority are responding to them in a way that forces, you know, Ransom to respond. So you're getting a sense of who these people are. They're in the process of doing a thing that, like you've just been talking about, this bureaucracy is pretty much illegal, but he has a justification for doing it, which gets fully explained. But then you also introduce the character of Lyra, who gives an opportunity to give an outside perspective on the stuff that they're doing. So you're not just in Cole's perspective, seeing how he experiences this, but you're showing multiple perspectives on it. And all of this is like this action is moving through the sequence that is like pulling the reader into the world, giving them information about who the characters are, how these things work. And then you also introduce the Mistral in a way that is evocative of like Star Trek and so many other, you know, tropes or just shows that we know. We all love that scene where a character gets to experience the ship for the first time. And then also you've got like Cole knows the ship and loves the ship and gets to see it through Lyra's eyes. And so all of this happens, and I want to say like the first like 2 chapters, if not first chapter. Um, and I just think from an author perspective, that is absolutely something I would study because you do it. It is just so smooth, and it's happening. Like just all these things are clicking together to give you a really good sense of who these people are and where they live and how they operate. And then you get on the ship and you get to see more of it as it's progressing. So I feel like I'm on chapter 5, and now we have just introduced the change in plans that, oh, now we get to go see the crew do a thing that isn't what they expected to do. And so can you talk about that? Like when you lay that out and
Well,
um
one of the things
like
about military science fiction is you have to start the book with some kind of action. And a lot of the
mhm,
times that's military action, but not always. I mean, you can't always. That's the problem with starting with military action, as some people tend to do, is you don't care about the characters yet. So
yeah.
I wanted to start it with some kind of action, some kind of conflict. I guess that's the word I'm looking for is conflict, um, not really action. And the conflict needed to show where Cole and his crew stand in this world. And that took, I worked on that for a while, trying to figure out how to start this book, because I came up with, like, as anybody will know after reading the first chapter, there was an incident in Cole's past where he
That's
was
on
the
the first
XO on a
page.
ship. Pardon?
You
Yeah.
know, you introduced that really
It's on the
well
first
with his
page.
interaction with the guards.
But
You know,
there's an incident where he was on a ship that was destroyed by disabled by the cogs in the neutral zone, uh, and there was a big controversy about it, and his captain was killed, but they blamed the whole thing on the captain, and Cole wasn't blamed for it and didn't get any reprimand or disciplinary action, but it kind of ruined his reputation. So I had to find a way to introduce all of that in the first chapter, so people understood why Cole had to go through the things he was going through to get spare parts for his ship. Because otherwise, I mean, and that also kind of explains the character of Jax. If you're going to be in that position, you need somebody like Jax.
But it also sets up right off the bat the way the military works. Like, this is a military where if somebody wants to be petty about something, they can, and they do. And
Well,
so
that's
he's got to
almost any
figure out ways
military,
around
James.
that. Well, it is. But I mean, some people come into these books wanting it to be very idealistic, and the military can never do no wrong, and that's not how it works. So
what's funny is like you sort of set up. Excuse me. You sort of set up the idea that the military is not idealistic, but then again, Cole is, despite him being Han Solo-ish, kind of a scoundrel and a rogue, he's more of what the military should be
yeah,
than what
he's
the
a
military
good
is.
person, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's trying to live up to the promise he made,
Mm-hmm.
which, I mean, you'll find that out too eventually in this book. But
I should expand on that, because I feel that too. Like, there is a core military is just like any organization, are corrupted by people that are self-serving and do selfish things for whatever reason. And it's always about, for me at least, I want a character who's trying to live up to the ideals of what it should represent. And that's always, for me, what a conflict I always want to see.
I think that one of the big differences between the three of us and a lot of other authors is we don't start with, well, what if we had a deeply flawed, morally gray main character?
Yeah.
Because it's like every book. Every
well,
book.
I mean, everybody's human, and all humans are flawed in some way. But do you want to read about a character who has no redeeming, moral characteristics,
Yeah.
or do you want to read about somebody who's innately good, maybe a little rough around the edges, but is a good person trying to do the right thing?
I always think there's a difference between idealistic and effective, and how do you balance that, right? So he's got to be effective, but he also has ideals.
But I mean, as you find out very soon in this book, Cole comes from what they call the outlaw worlds, which are all basically, there's a neutral zone with the cogs, and nobody wants to live there, because that's the first place that the cogs are going to come through when if the war starts again. And everybody knows the war will start again at some point, because the cogs just they don't accept us as having a place in the evolutionary ladder anymore. We're obsolete. So there's going to be another war, and nobody wants to live right where they're going to come through. So the people who live there are desperate. They're desperate enough to live in a place where in a year or 5 years or 10 years, the cogs will come through and blow you away. And it's almost certain. So he comes from one of those worlds, and his father was a kind of a criminal, like an enforcer for a criminal. And his father dies violently, and his mom makes him promise to get out of there. And since the only way he can get out and do anything meaningful is to go to the academy, she sends him to the academy. He goes into the fleet, and between his upbringing and what happens on his ship when he's an XO, yeah, it's pretty rough for him to gain any respect.
But you've obviously done a lot of work on this character. Like, can you kind of walk through how do some of these things come out in the writing, or was this something because you do a lot of outlining and summarizing before you start?
I did a lot of back and forth about the characters, who I wanted to be the main characters, what positions they were going to fill, both on the ship and as a part of the plot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you got to have an outsider and an insider, and I thought it would be since I already decided the captain was going to be, the outsider, the Han Solo, the somebody who's a black sheep. I decided his XO had to be like the golden child, somebody that everybody wants to succeed, and that's why I came up with Lyra. She's from the Resonance, which the Resonance are really, really important to the United Systems, but not many of them serve in the military because of their philosophy. So the fact that they were able to convince her to serve in the military and get to this point where she is a commander and an XO on a ship, it's really important to the ICA that she succeed. And also there's another character, kind of a combination of a foil and a mentor for Cole, who's Admiral Abel Tenhofer. And he wants Cole to succeed, but he also has to make sure he doesn't get in so much trouble following his own instincts that it's too much for even an admiral to get him out of. So he puts Lyra on the Mistral as a check on Cole. And as the first book shows, that works a little bit, but also Cole tends to corrupt her.
Well, I like that you made her a person who obviously is very. I thought that her religion and the creation of the Resonance puts a lot of interesting conflict there. So I'm excited to see how that plays out.
And I love the relationship. They're great foils for each other.
Right.
So you did really good on that.
And I was like going back and forth on the rest of the crew, because when you look at this from just a totally realistic point of view, how many people do you need on a bridge? With the technology they have. But also I wanted there to be a clash of personalities on the bridge. So I'm like, I got to get more people on the bridge, even if it's possible that the same person who steered the ship could also fire the weapons. I wanted there to be a separate weapons officer and a separate helm officer. So that's another. You don't want it to be overcrowded, but you also need people that you can focus on later on in the book. So that's why you have Georgie or Lieutenant K. Because I can't. And honestly, Lieutenant K, the reason I have everybody call him Lieutenant K is I have to look up how to spell his name every single time.
It was like Kandowski or something, right? Wasn't it?
And Priya Deshmukh, the comm officer, I have to look up how to spell her name every single time as well.
I hate when I do that. I actually ended up killing somebody whose name I had to keep looking up to spell. And so I was just like, you know what? I'm killing this person off.
Well, Lieutenant K is Greek. So his name is
Greek.
Georgie,
Okay.
like Konstantinopoulos or something like that.
Oh, okay. There was a Burkowski.
No. And Priya is Indian. And then you have Tamsin Cade, who's the tactical officer, who's a heavy worlder. And Cole and Lyra. And then the less important people who I barely mentioned, like the flight ops officer, who's only really important when they're about to launch a shuttle or a gunship or something. And you have the engineering liaison, who's an officer, but is pretty much Commander Rourke, the engineer, ignores her, and he only talks to her when he wants her to come do something dangerous.
Something I was explaining how Patriot worked to somebody at the 4th of July, And one of the things that came up was the fact that you have an enlisted operator and an officer operator. And really, you don't need both operators. But the idea was always that the lieutenant is the one that you can, like, they make the launch decision. And so you can blame them if they shoot something down that they're not supposed to. And so,
Well, what are you going to do? You're going to blame an
that.
18-year-old private? You know?
Well, I mean, in some cases, it's a 21-year-old lieutenant. So what are you going to do? I mean,
I've used the description several times in my books that junior officers, in particular second lieutenants, are, let me clean it up a little, crap magnets.
Right.
They're because crap rolls downhill, and if it hits the NCOs, well, there's the ones that really make the Army work. So you can't lose your good NCOs when the crap hits the fan. So you put the lieutenant in front of them as a crap magnet. So when bad things happen, you can blame him.
And you either learn about that or you don't, and then you have problems.
But also, besides those guys, there's obviously Marcus Ionescu, who is the Marine captain. He's older than most captains because he was prior enlisted and was an NCO and then went to officers candidate school. So he's very, very experienced.
Well, that's neat. A lot of people don't do that a lot in military sci-fi. It's always just, I graduated from the academy, or,
Yeah, but I wanted him to be older because even though Cole is superior to him in rank, because a fleet captain or a Navy captain is the equivalent of a Marine lieutenant colonel,
right?
Colonel.
I think it's colonel.
And he's just a captain in the Marines, which means he's an 03. But Cole respects him and defers to him when it comes to anything having to do with ground combat. Like if they're on the ground, if Cole is on the ground in combat, then Ionescu's in charge,
right?
Because he knows what he's doing. Sometimes Tamsin comes along too when there's ground combat, simply because she's so strong. But I also make it clear that she is very strong and is good in a fight, but she also is not a Marine. So she may hit hard enough and be able to take hits to be useful, but she's not tactically minded. She can fight a ship, but she can't lead a Marine platoon if it came down to that.
It's just not what they do.
Yeah. And then there's Rourke, who is the chief engineer, and he is really full of himself and believes that the well-being of the ships and her engines and her systems is the most important thing. And how dare you get her involved in a battle because you might hurt her, and
which is a legitimate opinion.
Yeah, and he does not have a high view of anybody else because they don't know enough about the ship. And Lyra knows a little bit about the ship, which he grudgingly respects her. And the final one is Jax, Chief Petty Officer Jackson Calder, who I made a little change in this just because it's what I'm used to. But like in the Army, a quartermaster is whoever is in charge of supplies, obviously. In the Navy, a quartermaster is something totally different. But in this future space fleet, they have kept the Army definition of a quartermaster, because there's no quarterdeck, obviously, on a spaceship. But they make the quartermaster the one who's in charge of supplies, and getting replacement parts for the ship. So Jax is a scrounger. And he's also, as much as Cole is considered a criminal, Jax is 3 times the criminal he ever was and makes no bones about it, kind of takes pride in it. So he's the one who steals or procures or borrows whatever parts the ship needs.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like there's always got to be that that chief petty officer who is, I know the black market. I got this.
I love that stuff, but then I knew people like that, so that's one of my favorite kinds of characters.
And Jax has kind of a big role in book 2. So if you like him, you'll get some more of him in book 2.
I do.
I
I
don't
like.
know.
I mean, I can't think of any characters that I don't like that I'm not supposed to not like. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Mhm.
you did a good job with it. I mean, you always do. Your characters are always great. You do great character work.
I mean, at this point, I get like double enjoyment out of Rick's books because there's not only the fact that I enjoy the characters and I like the story, but I'm also like, how did you do this? Like, I spent a lot of time thinking about that. So I think there's a lot of stuff to get out of these, and I don't know. I'm excited to see where this one's going to go. So
What's
just
funny
in the
is as an
time,
author, when you're reading a book, it's a lot different than when you're just a reader reading a book. Because when you're a reader reading a
yeah,
book, you're like, oh, this is enjoyable. This is fun. I'm in this world. These things are happening. I'm emotionally invested. But when you're an author reading a book, you have all those things. And then you have how the hell did you make me feel that?
right,
What did you
yep. And how
do?
how far back did you start that I didn't realize you started it, and now I go back and look at what you did,
Yeah,
and
it's a learning
I'll get
experience.
now I have to
Honestly,
rewrite everything I'm doing on the current project. Damn it, dang it.
honestly, a lot of that. I mean, I don't want to sound like it's not. I do want to do it, but it's not. A lot of the times, it's not something I even consciously think about. Just because I've been reading books for so long and I've been writing them for so long, stuff like that is kind of muscle memory almost at this point.
Mhm.
If you want somebody to feel something about a character later on, you have to introduce it earlier, and you just do it. And it's
Yeah,
one of those things where you sweat the details of the plot, like how am I going to make this plot point work logically. But when it comes to things like character development, you just kind of you build the character the way that they exist in your head.
I think the hard part is you have the way a character exists in your head. It's when you want to, engineer a change in them across the book that you have to kind of
Yeah.
start where for me at least, there's the end state that I imagine, and then how do I reverse engineer that back to them being a jerk or whatever it is the change I want them to go through, and then do I not enjoy writing the jerk as much as I want them to be the person that they're going to be,
I almost
So
I almost never go that way. I almost never have
yeah.
somebody that like devolve into a jerk.
Well, I mean, evolve. It would be usually for me anyway.
I mean, like,
start as a jerk and then evolve into a better
Right.
character.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's what I meant. Um, I know that it's really hard for people to change, but once you get inside of a character's head and you know that they're not the person they pretend to be for everybody else, you know, and once, but not even the reader knows that or the author, but once other characters find that out, then they don't
Mhm.
treat them the same way. So you have to like accept the fact that they're not going to be treated exact like, not to give anything away, but at the end of book 2, Jax is not going to be treated the same way by Lyra as he is in book 1. So um, also I was going to say before, the one thing I did want to keep kind of about um, Cole Ransom, which is a cliched stereotype uh, for starship captains, is he is kind of a hound dog. I mean, he does tend to attract females in the book. Not not like he's
Does he
got
get
a
his
girl in
Captain
every
Kirk
port,
on? Is that what you're saying?
but when there is a female character, they tend to like gravitate toward him as opposed to any of the other characters.
As long as they're not green aliens, I'm fine with it.
No, there's no
So
aliens.
Or in the chain of command.
yeah,
No,
yeah.
not chain of command.
I
I
don't
had
know.
to
I
explain to
always
somebody who was writing a military sci-fi book who was not in the military. I had to explain to
mm,
them why their CO could not be sleeping with their subordinate XO, um, and have that actually just be known and
Oh
like
yeah,
a
I mean
major
it
plot
it
point of
can
how
and
they
does
lose their
happen.
rank.
It can and does happen, but
Yeah,
it's never a good thing, and it always gets you in trouble.
yeah, yeah, for sure.
But
All right, Rick, well, tell us where are we? Obviously, you can get on Amazon. When is the next one coming out?
um, that is a good question. I've forgotten the date. Let me check really quick because it should be here on Amazon.
Because Unlawful Orders came out yesterday, I
Yeah,
yeah.
believe.
it came
And
out
the
yesterday.
Audible is already available, so that's
Yes.
awesome this time
Yeah,
around. Yeah.
they did the simultaneous audible. Um, Book 2, Rules of Engagement, comes out August 18th.
You and your damn names. So good.
Um,
Okay.
and I'm working on Book 3 right now. Book 3 is called Casus Belli, which for the Latin ignorant of you out there means the cause of war. Um, and yeah, I was talking to Steve and Rhett, and they're like, are people going to know what that means? Well, it's Book 3. Either they're on board or they're not at that point.
I
I
tend
probably
to I don't know where I picked this up, but I at some point in book, you know, one, the title for book two will be mentioned in a roundabout way,
Oh,
you know.
nice.
And in book three, same thing. And so it's like if you don't you and I mean it's one line in 100,000 word book, so maybe people don't pick it up. I don't know. But hopefully everybody sees it coming
It's
when at
kind
the
of
end of
like
the book it's
you're doing the
like,
whole Alanis Morissette thing where in one of the songs in an album, she'll mention the name of the album.
oh yeah, I didn't know that. Yeah,
mm,
that's
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Well, yeah, like that. Yeah. But that's cool. I'm really looking forward to book two, and all the whole series, and hopefully it does really well, and you can keep writing them because I think it's
I
a
hope
series
so.
with
I
a lot of
really
legs.
want to. I really want to keep writing the series. I mean, there've been series before that didn't do well, so I had to drop them, and I was like, oh, that's a shame. But this one, I would be very disappointed if I can't write at least 6 books in it.
well,
All
we
right,
need to
well,
stave
awesome,
off
buddy.
that disappointment. So
Yeah, well,
check
let's
out the
not
book.
disappoint
Tell somebody
Rick.
about it.
Let's buy
I know.
and share and tell people about this book.
Yeah, if I mean, buy it and read it and like it and review it, and that's cool. But unless you tell other people about it on like social media and in real life, you know,
It, it
it's not gonna sell.
it makes such a huge difference when you tell somebody about a book versus I just, bought it. I mean, listen, we're authors. We like money. We like paying for our families to live. So yeah, buy the book, obviously. Review the book. Great. Those are terrific and we love you for it. If you could take the extra step and share it with somebody you know will like it, or heck, even buy them a copy so that they get on board with it, that's great.
Or
That's above and
something that won't
beyond.
cost you any money, like going on X or Instagram or Facebook or whatever social media you use, and just say, "Hey, I read this really cool book. You
And
know,
here's the link. Check it out,
here's the link." Yeah.
and
Mhm.
that really helps us because when we post about our books, it kind of gets ignored in the noise because obviously we're going to say buy our books. Obviously, we're going to say our books are great. That's why I usually post my books with like, the number of reviews it has and the the rating so that people see that it's not just me bragging about that I wrote a book because every author does that. So please, yeah, like the books, buy the books, share the books, tell your friends. That makes the biggest difference.
Thank you.
Yep, yep. All right. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with us, and we will see you next time. Take it easy.
Well, adios.
All right.